So we had a huge release yesterday or today, depending on what part of the world you're in, Exodus version 1.63.0, but we will get into that just a little bit later. Today, I have with me a very special guest from the Dash Pay team, Fernando Gutierrez. Fernando Gutierrez from the Dash Pay team. Welcome, Fernando.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How you doing? So if you guys didn't know, Dash is actually the first self-governing, self-funding protocol. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say so. We have part of the block reward is kept for the development of the protocol. And there's a very cool governance and voting system among several stakeholders to distribute those funds among people working for the project.
Awesome. So can you tell us just a little brief history about Dash and what Dash is?
Yeah, Dash is a cryptocurrency that does payments better than anyone. That's the very short explanation. We do this with instant payments, completely secure, like they were confirmed, but in a second. We have also some enhanced privacy, a governance system, and a very intense focus on usability. It was launched in... Go ahead.
I was going to say, now you're the CMO of the Dash Core group. So would you mind telling us a little bit about what you do with Dash and kind of your experience with Dash as it's developed?
Yeah, I joined the project in 2014, the year it was launched. I was the first non-developer who joined, so I've been doing all kind of things around. Last thing is marketing. We, in the marketing function in the team, first thing, this is just one of the teams working on Dash. There are other teams working on different aspects of Dash. This is the biggest one. We have the developer, most of the developers, and do certain things looking for the protocol, but there are other teams that get funded from this system I mentioned before, also doing amazing work. So I'm CMO of Dash Core Group. And what we do there is try to bring the message of Dash to the crypto community and people who are not necessarily in crypto that could be our target. We do that through conferences, documentation, promotional material, social media, the website, anything we can do to put the message out, we will do.
Great. And now, would you mind taking me through kind of the evolution of Dash? Because Dash wasn't always Dash. It's kind of evolved over the years to become the currency that it is today.
Yeah, Dash in the beginning was called Darkcoin, and it had a strong focus on privacy. But when privacy was built, we realized that some of the tools that were created to be able to implement our privacy solution, mainly the Masternodes, which are a very well-known feature in many currencies today, but was invented by Dash, by Evan Duffield, the lead developer. He realized that those could be used for many other things besides privacy. So we created Instant Send. We call it Instant Send. It's instant transactions confirmed in the masternode layer instead of in the mining. Then they get into the mining layer, but that instant confirmation gives a lot of security to everyone who is using the currency. Then we created, that was in 2014, I'd say, the paper, and it was released in 2015. Then in late 2015, we launched our governance system that also relies on masternodes. And since then, we've been focusing on usability. There is a big release scheduled for the end of the year. That will bring a lot of improvements in terms of usability, including usernames in the blockchain, completely decentralized, not at the central server, but in the blockchain. It will include a decentralized API that lets you interact with the blockchain without really needing to download it, but it's still having the real benefits of crypto, of decentralization. You don't have to trust in a server, you trust in a class of servers in the network. Then it also includes an upgrade to our network that creates a new layer that will be able to host applications developed for the DASH protocol that run in a different way to other decentralized applications protocols. In our case, they are run on the computer, but the data is stored decentralized in a decentralized way in our network. So yeah, it's been evolving a lot, and all this path has been to become the best solution you can use for payments, because we believe that payments is the killer app. People keep saying crypto needs to find, or blockchain needs to find its killer app, and we know we have it. It's payments. We all do many payments every day, and they are not done well yet in crypto, and that's what we are working for.
Awesome. Now, you talked about the Masternode system, and Dash is a proof of work cryptocurrency, uses X11, but then you have a Masternode system. So would you mind kind of just going into how the Masternodes work with Dash and how they work to help secure the network?
Yeah, masternodes are how we call to a special type of node. We have normal nodes like Bitcoin has, but this special type of node is used to perform certain high value added tasks in the network, like instant confirmation, as I mentioned, our privacy setup, then the voting and all the governance. And in order to do that, you require a lot to the nodes, and you can't only trust that they will be volunteers. So they get part of the reward. Instead of giving all the block reward, the new coins that are created to the miners in DAS, we say, let's split it among the people that are doing things for the network. So the miners get 45% of that reward. Masternodes get another 45%, and then the last 10% is for that development and the governance system I mentioned before. So masternodes also need to do certain things in exchange. One of them is to prove they own 1,000 coins. That means that you've made a significant investment, and normally you'll work for the best of the network. But because that could not be the case for one person that, or several persons who decide they want to make an investment to destroy the network, everything is done with groups of masternodes that are selected, let's say, randomly. So that way, even a malicious agent that want to act against the network with just a few masternodes or even hundreds of masternodes, they can do anything, because there are 5,000 masternodes. For anything important, you are going to use at least 8 of them. So if you select 8 randomly among 5,000, there's no way you can control that group of masternodes if you only have a few or even several hundred. So that way you can trust the class of masternodes, the group of servers, because you know no one is controlling that. And then you can ask the class, the group of servers, about anything and trust their answer, because it's going to be done by majorities among a selected group in a bigger group, and they are selected randomly. Each one of them at this point need to have invested 1,000 coins, which at today's prices are around 160K. So no one can really control that layer of the network, and we can require that they do special things that usually you would not be able to ask to nodes, because you don't trust them if they were not, if they don't have these requirements.
Yeah, yeah. The other part of it, when you were talking about the security of payments, you mentioned instant send. How does instant send work? And is that kind of like a zero confirmation type feature, or what exactly is that within Dash, and how does that add?
It's much better than zero confirmation. When you send an instant transaction, what happens is that one group of masternodes is created in the network. So they check that transaction and they analyze if it's a double spend attempt. If it's not, those masternodes vote and create what we call a lock that gets added to the mempool. And that transaction is as good as confirmed, because miners can't include a transaction that contradicts a lock. So in the next block, they will include that transaction and they can't include anything else. And that happens in around a second. So it's as good as confirmed. So it's not zero conf that is risky. It's confirmed, it's secure, and it will eventually get included in the blockchain. And we can only do this because we trust the group of masternodes. As I said before, masternodes and their requirements are key, so the incentives are in the right place and be able to do these kind of things.
Yeah, having the cluster seems to be like a good idea to help keep everything, from being gamed, from the system being gamed. You have 8 randomly being chosen for each decision kind of, and that adds that level of protection to it.
If I'm right, I think for instance, it's 10 at this moment. We are also working some new features. We'll work with bigger quorums even. And we have some things in the pipeline to improve how that works. But we could have very big quorums. So you don't ask something to every node in the network. That creates a lot of noise and traffic. But you select a group big enough to be sure that it's impossible to control that group unless you own basically the network, which obviously is not the case.
Now, as we kind of mentioned, Dash is a payment coin. It's used for, or a payment currency and used for day-to-day payments is the goal. But there is a feature called private send that you guys do have. Would you mind just touching on that a little bit to kind of inform our viewers on how that works?
Yes, it's an enhanced privacy solution in the wallet, so it's very easy to use. That gives the final user some protection against too much information about him public. We don't work with a teaser that says how much cash we have in the pocket. We don't publish our bank statements online. So we believe that full transparency in the blockchain, it's dangerous for the final user. So we have a system that allows you to mix the funds with other people. And that way, no one can trace what other transactions you've made. It's very easy, it's very intuitive. It's not like the mixers in Bitcoin, which are very complex, but it's not full encryption of all data like other coins do. This has the advantage that you can choose if you want it or not. Full transparency is very good for certain things, but we believe that for final use, it's not that the case always. So that's a tool they can use. And basically, it's very simple. Going into the details, probably it would be too long to explain, but it's probabilistic. It doesn't encrypt, it doesn't hide, it just confuses anyone that's gonna try to trace you. And in fact, there's been bounties for anyone who traces one of these private send transactions, and no one has ever been able to trace it back. So it's very secure, but very simple at the same time, and it's a great tool for user protection.
Yeah, you hear to hear, guys. Dash bounties are open and available. So one thing I think that Dash does better than almost any project on the planet right now is their goal to push adoption. You see Dash everywhere in almost every country, having projects and initiatives, street teams. Would you mind kind of telling us a little bit about the projects that you're currently working on, what you guys are doing right now to help lead the way to adoption?
First, that's the direct consequence of having this governance treasury system. That because anyone that can work for that want to work for us can do a proposal and then get the funds to execute on that proposal. Obviously, it's a competition. It's not that easy. The funds are limited, and everyone needs to prove they are worth what they say they are worth. But that gives the community, makes the community be much more powerful because you can give them the tools to execute. No team in the world is gonna get to mass adoption alone. You need a huge community, and a coin is only worth what the community is worth. So we have very interesting projects going on. We've studied many markets and many things that can be done with crypto. The Ascore group is focusing on some of them because we believe they are the ones with the most potential, but there are other teams focusing on others, and hopefully they also succeed. But some of the ones that are showing more promise and are seeing most real adoption happening, for example, is Venezuela. Obviously there, the local currency is worthless. Inflation last year was around $1 million%. So basically it's paper that it's not worth what it's printed on. all the people don't use cash; they use banks, right? But that level of inflation have made day-to-day life very difficult. So we have several local teams training businesses, training users, and doing a lot of actions. We have more than I think we're close to 2,000 merchants in Venezuela, mostly in Caracas. And that gives you a base and a density good enough to then start building on top of that remittances, people getting paid in that they can use that, and you can create that ecosystem that hopefully will give us a lot of adoption. We also have very cool projects going on in the US in the legal cannabis industry, which there's legal cannabis in some kind of capacity in 29 states, but banks don't usually touch them because at the federal level, there is some regulation that makes it very risky for them. So it's a sector that works mostly on cash, which is expensive, dangerous, inefficient. You can add any adjective to that. So we have a partner who's working on a vertical solution for the sector so they can transact among them in Dash. That is only possible because of instant transactions, and then they eliminate the volatility risk by instantly buying and selling and converting, and that way they eliminate that risk. There are very good opportunities in remittances tied to that density of merchants, tied to that instant transactions that then people can get their money in a few seconds at the other side of the world. Also sectors with a high chargeback in credit cards, like illegal gambling and that kind of thing, that people protest charges a lot. So that leads to very high costs for the merchant, or directly not accepting many electronic payments. So crypto has a place there. And then also crypto as a market, the traders and the exchanges is a very big use case that we want to improve, because again, instant payments makes that you can have your money in a wallet like Exodus or a hardware wallet or whatever you want, and then send to an exchange, get it deposited in seconds or a minute or very fast speed, trade, get out, go to another exchange, and you can move your money around very efficiently, very cheaply, very quickly. And that will let you take advantage of any opportunity.
Really amazing. So I have a question from one of our viewers, Bitcoin Birch, or Bitcoin Bank, I apologize. He wanted to know what countries that you're seeing the, let's see, what is it? What part of the world are you seeing the biggest uptake in new users and payments, and why, do you think? And I think you kind of touched on that a bit when you just were talking, but just to kind of separate the two from the industries we were talking about and then overinflated countries.
Yeah, Venezuela is a big one. For us, it's huge. There's a lot of activity there on day-to-day payments. We see a lot of small payments. As I said, 2,000 merchants almost. That's a lot of people doing things every day. In the US, there is a lot of activity, although probably more speculative than in Venezuela for certain. Latin America in general, we're seeing a lot. It's in Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, although it's been a traditionally very Bitcoin maximalist country, if such a thing exists. But we've had a few teams there trying interesting things, and we really think there's a lot of future there. So Latin America is where we believe there's the highest potential at this moment, but there are niches everywhere.
Yeah. One other question that he had was, what contact, if any, has the Dash team run into with regulators, being that you're kind of being a big push with the legal marijuana industry and with some other industries? Have you guys had any pushback or had to deal with any regulators?
No, not at all. I think some people are over concerned with regulation. Truth is, any business has some regulatory risk. This is one that is especially watched, but not as much. We have actively contacted the SEC, and this is public information, to explain that who we are and that we are not a security. We've talked we've had preliminary contacts with some other regulators in other countries, but nothing major, nothing to be worried about ever. I think people overthink it sometimes, especially for a project like us, that we didn't do an ICO, we didn't do a distribution of any type. So in that kind of a context, you are pretty safe. If you've done an ICO, get worried about regulation because there's much more to see there. But in our case, we are pretty comfortable, pretty secure. We've had many legal opinions about legality of everything we do, and we are pretty comfortable and feel really safe.
So one thing I wanted to bring up and talk about, because I thought it was really, really unique when we were kind of chatting a bit earlier, was how there were sequencing genomes on the blockchain using Dash right now with only specific seeds, but you can kind of see how that would branch out and it could blossom from there into kind of other plants and other seeds that are trying to be patented and copyrighted by big business.
Yeah, there is a company that's doing that. They're sequencing genomics of some cannabis seeds, and they are putting them on the DASH blockchain. They did this with some funding from our treasury with this governance system. They did their proposal. It was passed, and they got their funding, and they did this project, which is really cool. And I think it's already done. They finished putting everything they wanted to put in the blockchain. And yeah, having a blockchain that is focused on payments, and because of that, it's cheap, scalable. We have many cool things that let us scale, and thus have always cheap transactions, because cheap transactions can be the consequence of you being empty, which then when you get it full, they get expensive. That's what happened with Bitcoin. In the beginning, they were cheap, then they got expensive. Now they are not that expensive, but they are still expensive. I mean, at the dollar, you can do micropayments, obviously, or day-to-day payments. But in our case, we can scale because we have these nodes that get paid to do their work. So obviously, they are going to upgrade as much as they need. And then we have that layer of the network that can handle almost anything we throw at them. We get the transactions, then we grow, and we grow with the blockchain, and there's no problem. So having that kind of network is very cool for all kind of projects, because they can build and imagine around our blockchain all kind of solutions.
It's really, really neat. Going from there, let's kind of talk about what Dash has in store for the future. You're talking about nodes upgrading and future upgrades. I know you have an upgrade coming up towards the end of the year, I believe, but what other features are coming to Dash that people can look out for?
Well, what's coming in that next big release is usernames. As I said, completely decentralized in the blockchain directly, not in any central server. Then our decentralized API that will let people build things without needing integrate much easier, because you don't need a full node to have an integration. It will let people build in a very simple way, because it's just using an API. It's decentralized, but in terms of using it, for anyone who's programmed anything, using an API is the easiest way to use someone else's service. And then we have these new applications that will be possible to build on top of the Dash protocol. So anyone can define those applications and have the data validated by the consensus rule in the blockchain, but stored somewhere else in the network, in that layer of Masternodes I was talking about, in a very secure way, and has using IPFS and several cool technologies, one on top of the other. So we have this storage there. So those are the big things. Basically is building the things that will make payments possible. We have many, we've seen what makes payment adoption possible, and we're trying to mimic it. There's a lot of companies in the traditional financial world that have done this before. So you just need to make it easy to the user. You need to give tools to the merchant. You need to make things flexible, easy to use, secure. This is not discovering penicillin back when it was discovered. we know what we have to do. We need to build it, which is not trivial. Obviously, we're doing things no one else has built before, but we are going towards that. And why we need those applications? Because they open new use cases like recurrent payments in blockchain that right now they are not possible. Maybe someone will build an application to do that. Subscriptions. As I said, the usernames is the first application we're building, but many things that will make payments easier. That's what we are focusing on.
With these usernames, are they going to completely replace right now the long form Dash addresses, or will it be okay? So you'll be able to use both, either username that
you can use the core protocol will still be there, but if you download like the more user-friendly wallet, you have your contacts, you can add people by username, they do the same with you, and then your username, and there's exchange information on the background. In reality, they are sending payments to those long addresses. It's just hidden from your side so they don't confuse you. And for every payment, you'll have an address that will be derived from your HD key. So it's still crypto, but it's crypto that is easy to use, which is not the case right now. All those long strings also are dangerous, because we've all heard about all kind of malware and viruses that change an address when you copy and paste it, or mistakes can happen. You eliminate all that friction from the user, and you make it much easier to do payments and send you money.
Yeah. And data contracts, you guys have it coming out in the near future as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, those are those applications I was talking about.
Okay.
We call them data contracts or DApps, but because there is so many similar things happening in the space, we probably need to fine tune the terminology by the time it's launched. They are applications that have the data checked with the consensus rule of the blockchain. So it's completely secure. It's the decentralization of the blockchain, but the computing happens locally. So it's much more efficient and cheap. Executing an application in the Ethereum protocol is very expensive because you are using such a huge thing to run your application. In this case, it's much simpler and cheaper. So we believe that there will be things that are better run on other blockchains, and there will be things that run better on our blockchain.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. We've had a long-standing relationship with the Dash team. They were one of the original or first kind of top 5, I think we were looking at earlier in their of assets that we supported. So it's great to finally have someone from the team come on the channel, give our users and our viewers a little insight into Dash and what to expect. I'd really like to thank you for coming on, Fernando. Is there anything that you need to leave our users and our viewers with? Let them know where they can find you, find out more about Dash.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. As you said, the Exodus and Dash relation is a long one. We've always loved the Exodus wallet. The attention to detail and to UX that you guys have has always been amazing. And like you said, yeah, it was probably the first third-party wallet that added Dash, if not the first, or one of the very first. And we were really happy when that happened, and we keep loving the wallet. And in terms of where to find us, dash.org is the best place. The start for everything. Twitter, DashPay. I'm Fernando on Twitter also. Anything you saw me there, I'll try to answer. And no, I would just say to people watching, check projects, don't chase the latest and most signing object. There is very good things happening from projects that have been around a lot, being here for a long time. It's a sign that something is going well. So take the time, do your research, and get involved with that. It's really a great project. Many cool things are around the corner. So it's a very welcoming community. And there are very interesting things to do also because of this governance system and all the projects that are funded around that. So hopefully some people will want to check out.